There's one thing you like to repeat, and that is that you believe, you're firmly convinced that trade is a force for good. Is that still the case?
Well, 100%. I mean, the expansion of global trade has been unequivocally a positive for the global economy and for people all around the world. It has helped lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. Of course, I mean, global trade and the global competition that comes with it helps to bring prices down, helps to increase choices for consumers. It helps to drive increased incomes and opportunities for businesses, and hence drive stronger growth and higher incomes and living standards. But it is also true that we always need to think about whether the global markets is well functioning, whether the global rules-based trading system is in good working order. And some issues have been appropriately identified that need addressing, but what we would say is we need to address them in a way that helps preserves the economic benefits of open markets and rules-based trade.
So I wonder, when you look at the EU at this point, what analysis do you make? We've had a very narrative of a declining continent that's almost fallen behind in every possible innovation. Others suggest there's too much doom and gloom. How do you see it?
Well, the way I see it, first and foremost, is that Europe and the European Union as a project is an unequivocal success story. I mean, when you look at the history of Europe as a continent, I mean, by any measure, the last 80 years have been a great success in terms of stability, in terms of peace, in terms of prosperity. I mean, yes, of course, there are challenges. There are things that need to be improved. There are things that Europe needs to reconsider in terms of the approach moving forward.
And that would be what? What do they need to?
I mean, I think the conversation that is happening in Europe around making sure that Europe remains internationally competitive, to making sure that Europe is positioned in the best possible way in the geopolitical context as it is evolving. I mean, these are all legitimate conversations, but it's always important not to forget, in thinking about what needs to be improved, not to forget everything that's been achieved. I mean, you look at when I grew up in Belgium, in the 70s and 80s, I wouldn't have been able to just travel to Poland or Hungary or Czechoslovakia as it was then. Now, I mean, all of these countries are successful, thriving, market-based economies, part of the European project. I mean, like Europe today is in a much better place than it has been. But yes, of course, Europe is facing challenges, and Europe needs to continue to think about how best to meet the challenges and how best to pursue the opportunities.
So is there an element of perhaps self-confidence and pride that is lacking for Europeans and they need to regain in a way?
No, I wouldn't make such a blanket statement. I mean, I think Europe fundamentally is a great place to live. It's overwhelmingly a successful continent, and I think we need to put things into perspective. Yes, I mean, there are particular challenges. There are particular challenges at this time. But there are challenges that are long-standing and that are not just unique to Europe, but there are other challenges perhaps where Europe needs to think about how to position itself in the best possible way in the evolving circumstances. But this is, it will always be thus, but there will always be evolving circumstances to which we need to adapt and to which we need to position ourselves in the best possible way.
And when you look at the deals that were cut with both India but also the Mercosur, is that something that you go, that is going in the right step?
The appetite to talk to each other, the appetite to enter into agreements in the last period has actually increased, if anything. And that's also a good thing.
There is, of course, Mario Draghi has come up again with this call to say the European Union needs to move from a sort of confederation that's not really working to a federation. He's also said we need to see radical changes, otherwise it's going to be a slow agony. Is that a message that you can rally behind, and do you understand where he's coming from?
Well, look, I mean, Mario Draghi is an exceptional leader, policy thinker, and I think that everybody would be well advised to listen very carefully to.
So you say listen to his message.
It's not really for me to give advice to the European Union on this point, but when I think that Mario Draghi is somebody that everybody would be very well advised to listen to very carefully.
So what do you expect to see this year now from a global OECD perspective beyond Europe and the United States? What is the outlook that you're hoping to achieve?
Look, I mean, we will have a ministerial council meeting later this year, as we do every year in June. This year, we will be focusing on the interaction between industrial policy and trade policy. How can we ensure that industrial policy is well designed, well targeted, non-market distorting, and helps to achieve policy objectives in a way that doesn't detract from the future expansion of global trade. Really seeking to support countries around the world to manage structural transformations in relation to digital and the green transition, the energy transition, but also really to position themselves in the most competitive, successful way for the future.
And it's not an OECD member, but since you talk about market distortions, is China your biggest worry?
We deal with the global economy, and China is a big factor in the global economy. Obviously, nearly 20% of global economic activity, and there are, again, there are challenges and opportunities. There
Some
are
talk about a
areas.
big China
Well,
shock.
there are areas where we're concerned about market destroying practices, about excessive levels of market destroying subsidies, about, and I mean, these are conversations that we need to continue to have. And certainly from our point of view, we would prefer if there was stronger alignment with, market-based practices like those promoted by the OECD.